today we will discuss. Okay, so today we will discuss about this topic. I'll tell you the whole journey for 1G to 4G, and now the 5G is also coming into picture. So it is the whole journey of transition, and the transformation is the business transformation. Actually, I'm from core domain. Core is you'll get to know about what is core. I'll explain you what exactly the core means, because core means the brain of the network. So I'll tell you what exactly is this in the coming slides. Yeah, the topics that I'll cover today will be the telecom telecom basic overview, GSM 3G overview and interfaces, the IMS network and functionalities. This IMS is IP multimedia system. This is into Volta network that you might be seeing in 4G, and now in Geo, and now Airtel is also offering. But in out of India, Volte is everywhere. So after that, we'll discuss about the LTE architecture and entities that are involved in LTE architecture that will help you in future. And after that, we'll go ahead with 2G, 3G, LTE interworking, how they work. And one of the case study I have also taken up that will help you to understand what is the impact of big data analytics in telecom. So I shall move ahead with the telecom basic overview. So guys, telecom is basically divided into wired communication, that is wireline communication, that is fixed, and wireless communication, that is a mobile network. So wireline communication is most of you guys are aware of BSNL, and now Geo is also offering in J&K. Because I'll not go far, I'll go to J&K operators only. So Geo has also offered nowadays this Geo fixed network, and there are wireless network. So there's a lot of evolution that has happened into fixed network, and there's a lot of evolution that has happened into mobile network also. But we'll focus in today's slide about the mobile network more. So, but anyhow, I'll tell you what transformation has been done in the fixed communication also, because I have some slides to explain about this thing also. So, the wireline communication is a type of data communication that is performed and delivered wirelessly. Like wirelessly means there is no wire, you are mobile. Why mobile is called mobile? Because you can take it anywhere. You can go ahead with anywhere. That's why it's called mobile. So from 1G to 5G, there's a hell lot of big journey in it. So, and moreover, each generation has its own features, characteristics, advantages, and disadvantages. So, guys, I just want to let's make it more interactive. I just want to know when fixed network comes into picture. So, what comes in your mind about the push button telephone PBTs? So, what exactly do you think? You might have heard about some lineman that comes to your house and fixes the BSNL network like that. Okay, just a basic question. So, we can ask questions also, because I want to make it interactive. Can I do that?
Yeah, certainly you can ask, but I don't know how
Okay.
many of them will be able to reply.
No. That's
But
a
surely
simple,
they
basic,
can.
logical question. Because let's make it a bit interesting. I just because I feel that it should be interactive. So,
I'll
guys,
request students to kindly interact, otherwise I have to answer all the questions. Please interact.
No problem, guys. Probably you might have in your span of lifetime, you might have heard about the push button telephone, the landlines you might have seen. When you pick up the cradle switch of that phone, that is the head, the push button telephone, you hear a sound. Am I right? But why there is, and then you dial a number, and then when the number is when the call is through, then you will get a separate ring. So you call it a PRBT or something like that. So and why in mobile there is no that type of ring? Can you just anybody, anyone? Like in fixed network, when you put in landline, you pick up the phone and you get it dial tone, and then you if you don't get a dial tone, you said my phone is dead, my phone is out of service or something like that. But you never heard anything in your mobile. You just dial a number and it gets dialed. So have you ever thought of this? Why? Anyone? No one? Okay.
I think they have never thought of this. So you have
When you pick up the pedal switch of the landline, so it is like that. You just get connected to the exchange. The sound that you hear in the phone is minus 12 volt DC. The circuit gets complete. The cradle switch, when you pick up the cradle switch, the circuit gets complete, and you immediately gets connected to the exchanges, the local exchanges. That exchanges has also involved as MSC right now. But whenever you pick up the phone, the circuit gets complete, and it sends you the message, yeah, that you are connected. Okay, that you are connected. Now you can make a call. Then you dial a number, and then the number gets through. But in mobile network, you are already connected to the nearest. You can say BTS, the tower in layman language. What do you say? It's a tower. So you are directly connected to the router. So no need, because in mobile network you are 24/7 connected. 24/7, there is no need to get connected to you, because you're already over there. And from BTS to mobile, every information of your location, that is lat and long, that goes to the MSC location, that the exchange, in 480 nanosecond. Paging happens every 480 nanoseconds, which tells you where is your mobile. Are you in this BTS? Are you in the different BTS? Are you moving around? Are you roaming? Are you talking to somebody, or are you in waiting? So all these features, they have developed and evolved time to time. So I'll move ahead and explain you about the fixed network. I have picked up a wireline communication fixed network. When I was in Johannesburg, I made a case study about the fixed network, because in Vodacom I was my customer, and I was handling their logical entity. So I have prepared. But nowadays, wireline communication is segregated. Jio is also using this technology. The ONTs, OLTs, BNGs, this VLAN and MPLS network. The ONTs is optical network terminal. The optical network terminal, like somebody who is using Jio in their home, they might get connected. This ONT is basically a CP, a customer premises equipment, a router or a switch, a small box that is in their home. It is further connected into small splitters, and then goes into a GPON network, a GPON card, gigabit passive optical network. This is the optical network through a fiber network. This is basically a fiber network. This is also a fiber network, and this is the GPON trail that happens. Okay, and this is the cloud. Oh, now it is like broadband and VoIP services. Earlier there was no VoIP services. Now you can connect your this push button telephone also, and you can use the VoIP services. VoIP services are very clear. They're on IP, voice over IP. So broadband is already there, and VoIP services will also be an additional supplementary services to this. So ONTs, they are layer 3 devices. Like, they are not so intelligent. Layer 2 devices, sorry, they are layer 2 devices. They're not so intelligent. They just connects and gives the VLAN to OLTs. And the VLAN, like, I have given a live example on which I have worked upon. So this is a customer location is having you can see this 1st December 2018. This is the case study that I have done. So this is that goes into the GPON card, and the uplink is there, and then VLAN traffic comes. This VLAN 1584 is for broadband, and VLAN 136 and 137 is for VoIP. So this goes into the MPLS core network, and 1584, that is link aggregation. That happens when some of you guys must be doing CCNAs or CCNP. They might connect what is lag, what is all those things, because these are into the IP technology. Nowadays, telecom is not about pure telecom. It's like ICT, information communication technology. Like, IP is also there, and telecom is also there. They have clubbed. In 5G, you have a very big chunk of IP that you'll see. Now, for the voice services, this is for the BNG. BNG is broadband network gateway. This is of a mid-rent, the area of which I was living over there. I have prepared that. So this is 1584. It goes into the BNG. BNG is the broadband network gateway. It is further connected to ISPs, and your broadband services will work. If the VLAN is, like, if the person is making a voice call, the call will go here, and it comes like it is 136 and 137. It will go here in the soft switch. Soft switch is of Cisco Broadhops. That is nowadays very much in the market. So it uses that. So I'll give you one more example of fiber to home network of Vodacom South Africa. This is their slide. I have picked this slide because it gives you a better understanding. This is the CPE. CPE is customer premises equipment, but I have told you the ONTs nowadays, CPEs and ONTs, optical network terminals, they are being integrated. Now, earlier they were separate. Now they are just one box, and with one box you connect wirelessly. It can be wired, it can be wireless. The phone, IPTV, you can switch on your TV and can see multiple channels through the CP, because it has a very high speed, 1.2 Gbps uplink, and the downlink is 2.5 Gbps. So you can see how many equipments, user equipments, that you can connect, and user is getting benefit, a lot of it. So from ONTs there are splitters. They can be overhead, can be underground, and they are further connected to OLTs, optical line terminals. They are small mini exchanges, you can say. And after that there is a mesh network, that is access ring and core ring, and it goes into IP MPLS network. Earlier BNGs were there for broadband, but earlier BRAS were there, but now BNGs has replaced BRAS, because BNGs are from Cisco and they are very good products. The Broadhop is also there for voice, so you can see the voice from Broadhops as well as soft switch. It goes. This is application server platform. This whole platform is application server platform. This goes to internet. This goes to the other server. Okay, there was a case when some of the operators they don't have their fiber network, robust fiber network. So what they took the network from Vodacom, that they will give a marginal money to them. Okay, they'll use their network. So they were using a lot of this network, and there is a fiber pop over there. Okay, from fiber pop they just use their network and give the services to their network. Like in South Africa we have MTN, we have ZAN, we have multiple other operators. So they use their all this network in fiber. In FTTX it is fixed, because you can see CP is fixed, ONT is fixed, but mobile network, you are again mobile. You can freely roam anywhere where you can. But the speed in fixed network is very high. You can see the speed is very high. So this is all about the fiber network. So I'll now move to 2G 3G basic overview. This is the journey of, you can say, 1G to 4G. Like the parameters, these are the parameters. These is introduced in 1980, and it is basically in circuit switching. So I don't know, some of you guys might have visited Kerala or some place where the old exchanges were kept in the museum. You know, there were like a operator which you have to call an operator. Yeah, please connect my call to that area. So there were circuits. The operator used to connect one call and gets the other call, and then connects through wired. That is called circuit switching. The switching was happening, but is not happening automatically. It was done by an operator, or the person physically present in the exchange, who can who can switch the calls, who can make the calls. So switching, that is basic term. But whenever your circuit switch, whenever the circuits is maken and circuit is broken, and again it's meant, it is called circuit switching. So in 1G there is circuit switching calls, and you can see the speed 2.4 to 14.4 kbps. This is the first wireless communication, and features are voice only, support only voice, or it supports only voice. No data was working over there. Very simple network elements are there. Capacity is very low. There was no security, minimal privacy, poor battery life, and there were very big phones that were used at that time. I don't know how much have you guys watched the movie. I still not remember that movie. Yade movie, I remember. In that I have seen an Ericsson handset, very big handset. So at that time, and it was shooted in London, I think. So at that time, they were using 1G technology. In India, there was no no sign of any technology of 1G or telecom operators. After that, 4G comes into 1993. Then it is both a CS and PS, because in 2G network you might because in J&K I know the speed is very low, 384 kbps. So you all are facing 2G network right now. So it is like the it handles CS and PS for data. CS is circuit switching for voice, and PS is packet switching for data. So speed is here 384 kbps. This is the speed that you are getting right now, guys. Because I know that data has been throttled due to security reasons in J&K. So now this is the digital version of 1G technology, because 1G is analog and it is not digitized into 2G. Multiple users on a single channel. The channels here are traffic channels, and the channels in the air. That is a lot of a big topic itself. And it supports the voice and data also, because you are using data, GPRS you can say. So it emits less radio power. Multiple features are there, SMS, MMS are there. And after that, it is the disadvantages. Powerful digital signals are required to make the mobile phone work. Slow data rate, difficulty to handle complex data such as video, because if you get a big chunk of video, how can you download it in at such a smaller speed? And the application that you can use is voice servicing, voice calls, SMS, and browsing. Now 3G comes into picture, but trust me, 3G is a flop show for India. 3G is not so much successful in India and in anywhere in the world, because it's a quite complex network. I have launched, I have seen what problems they are facing right now also. Now in 3G sunset is going on nowadays in India, I know. So 3G is the major flop show, and it involves a lot of infrastructure that gave a very adverse effect to the telecom companies. And now you can see the telecom companies got a very bad setback, but now they are reviving on 4G and new technologies. Now it has the packet switching except for air interface. Its speed is 3.1 Mbps. Special characteristics are digital broadband internet increments. Multiple features are there. Video calling is there. Voice and data is there. And advantage is high security. It was evolved from 2G, so it was like they made it very robust and high data rate they offered. And the disadvantage is high power consumption was there, because in 3G, I still remember in 3G your handset becomes warm. Because during testing, I still remember the handset, it consumes a lot of power, it becomes warm, and most of the handset they are not supporting 3G also. So it requires higher bandwidth and low network coverage. It has a very low network coverage, and it supports voice, video, TV, GPS also. Now the 4G, this is a good show for India right now, and all the world also. It involves purely packet switching. No circuit switching happens over here. Its speed goes up to 100 Mbps. In 5G, trust me, you get a speed of 1 Gbps. But in 4G, because Ericsson, I think it has tested with South Korea telecom company. It has tested in the test beds 1 Gbps in 5G. Yeah, but here it is 100 Mbps, very high speeds. All is in IP. High speed network, real time streaming, voice and data is there. High speed handoffs, multiple inputs and multiple outputs. This is the radio technology basically. In whenever you see a 4G tower, you might see more than 3 antennas over there. More than there may be 4 antennas, there may be 5 antennas. Though they support multiple input and multiple output technology. In fact, their antennas also support a different set of frequencies also, 2100, 900, 800. There are a lot of multiple frequencies that they use to work on it. So a disadvantage is hard to implement higher data price, because but nowadays after the launch of Jio, it is very low. But throughout the world, the price of 4G is very high. Trust me, it's people are making a lot of money from 4G because it's very high speed and consumes a lot of infrastructure. 4G supports devices are required, because 4G supporting devices were not ready at that market. Now it is good. Now a lot of 4G devices are there. Now high speed application is there, mobile, TV, wearable devices, the IoT devices you can use on 4G, you can use in 5G also. So I'll move ahead with the GSM overview and interfaces. Tell me guys, if you find something boring, do let me know. I'll give you some I'll ask some questions from you. I don't want to be lethargic in this, so do let me know if you have some questions. If you have something, do let me know. You can interrupt me, that's not a problem. Okay, I'll explain you about the 2G also. 2G overview and the interfaces. The 2G basically it has divided into three parts: MS, BSS, and network substations and network subsystem. So MS is like your handset. SIM is subscriber identity module, and ME is your mobile equipment. So whole of the things you make it a mobile station. This is BTS. I'm pretty much sure that you all aware of BTS based transceiver station. It is some guys they have got BTS installed in their rooftops also, and they have seen a lot of BTSs. But BTS is common. You can see BTS throughout the network, throughout the city. But BSCs, the base station controllers, they control a lot of BTSs, but they are not visible. They are in the data centers or remotely. They are present in a building or something like that. So it is in 2G. 2G you get BTS, then BSC, and the MSC. MSC is basically mobile switching center. It is the, you can say, brain and heart of telecom network. It is only the intelligent devices that do the switching, that do everything. Your authentication, the MSC is there, and then it is connected to PSTN network. The authentication center is there. AUC, HLR is a home location register. VLR is your visitor location register, and EIR is equipment identity register. I don't know how much you guys are aware that some crisis has happened when ARCOM launched. When ARCOM launched, there was a issue of people getting their mobile bills in lakhs. That happened due to IMSI cloning. Every SIM has an IMSI embedded to it. You can say that was a telecom hacking that happened first time in India, and after that, the Telecom Regulatory Association of India, they decided that the IMSI that travels in air, you can see this interface, the air interface from BTS to MS. It's all in air. So whenever you dial, so your dialing number goes, the dial number goes, the circuit you acquire goes, and a lot of other information goes in the network through air interface. Your IMSI detail, which is a unique detail, like you all guys have your roll number in class. So that is your unique identity. I still remember my roll number in MIT. It's 285 2K1. I still remember that. So that was my unique identity in my college. So this is every SIM has IMSI. That is a unique identity. If that unique identity some hacker copies and it makes a different SIM out of that IMSI, then he can call, and whenever he calls, so you will be charged. So that was a fraud that happened. After that fraud, a birth of new department, you can say a revenue assurance. Earlier there was no revenue assurance that was coming in telecom sector, but after this a revenue assurance department that comes into picture. It's in 2G only, guys. In 2G this fraud happened, and this fraud happened in India, in ARCOM. Then ARCOM make it a very robust network, and other operators also find it as a learning, and they make IMSI more secure. And now in air, IMSI is 16 digit, and now in air travels IMSI, temporary mobile subscriber identity. TIMSI is now international mobile subscriber identity doesn't travel. Now TIMSI travel, and TIMSI changes every time it changes, and MSC allocates that TIMSI. Okay. Now you guys, have you ever thought that whenever you put a SIM in your handset, if it is from Airtel, then why you get the signal of Airtel? Because wherever you are sitting, you are getting the signals of Idea also, Vodafone also, Jio also, BSNL also, and Airtel also. But you are getting only, if it is Airtel SIM, then you are getting only Airtel signal. Why? It's because of authentication center. Because HLR has that IMSI mapping. HLR is home location register. It has that IMSI mapping that whenever you enter the SIM card in your phone, information goes. So it will collect. It will go to all the networks, and there is a ciphering key. There is a ciphering key that is present in the SIM. algorithm. You never know. You have seen the PCB in the SIM, printed circuit board in the SIM, and whenever you enter the SIM in the phone, the information goes to the HLR. HLR immediately pings to the authentication center where your information is mapped. I'm pretty much sure that whenever you guys have taken the SIM from any market or any place, so you ask the person when it will get activated, and then he says within a day, within 2 days, or it is pre-activated some of the times. So what they do, they make that SIM cards, a chunk of SIM card. They get a chunk of SIM cards, maybe in thousand, maybe in lakhs. They pre-define that chunk into AUC. So you immediately, when you enter the SIM, it gets activation means that your number is now active in HLR. AUC, the information is going to HLR. AUC is also a data bank. HLR is also a data bank. All your information, whether you have call waiting, call forwarding, everything is present in HLR. And HLR interacts with the VLR, because every time you never go to HLR and say, yeah, whether my call waiting is there, whether my this thing is there, that thing is there, then it makes a cache server. You might have heard about simple. In simple term, I'm saying the cache server is the VLR. It is next to MSC, or it is embedded into MSC. Whenever you call, it never goes to HLR again. It picks up the information from the VLR, and then you can make a call. You can make here one box more. I forget to add here. It is IN also, the prepaid numbers, intelligent networks. The prepaid is also there. This is a postpaid and prepaid. You get a IN network also. In IN network, then call goes to the IN network. If it is prepaid, it is also judged by MSC whether it is IN call, whether it is SMSC call, whether it is data call, whatever it is, MSC decide, and then it sends to different. If it is a like Surbhi is calling me, you can say. So Surbhi has 2G, I have 2G. She's calling me, so her number goes to the call moves from BTS to BSC, BSC to MSC, MSC. From MSC, if I am the other operator, it will go to GMSC or PSTN network or ISDN network and comes to me. Same reverse routing will be there. This is forward routing. The reverse routing will also be the same path. So in a nutshell, I know it must be bouncing on you, or some guys, some of you guys also know it, but do interrupt me if you have anything to ask. Okay. Now I'll move ahead to the interfaces that I have explained also. The UM interface is the radio interface. You also called it UM, or you also called it UU interface. And ABIS interface, this is the ABIS interface. This is the ABIS from BTS to BSC. Whenever you feel like, or whenever we feel that there is issue in something, some of a guy is calling, he's facing call muting, he's facing anything. So we put a traces on these interfaces. We get to know where is that problem coming. I'm telling you the live example, what we have done past few years back. It's like that, yeah. It is interfaces between the BSC to BTS that I've shown you. The air interface is like BSC to MSC also. From BSC to MSC, you can see from BSC to MSC, there is a interface. If you get a problem from multiple BSCs, like multiple area, like somebody in Bhutanagar and Chani and adjoining area, he's getting a problem. Yeah, my call is not going on, and a lot of customers there that this thing is happening. So there might be the problem. We can drill down the problem through MSC. The area that is adjoining this MSC, oh yeah, there can be the problem. Then you put a trace on these interfaces, or you can get those numbers checked. Maybe this interface is broken, but nowadays I'm telling you the past time issues that we have faced, but nowadays issues are somewhat different. So I'll rush into it. So these are the interfaces. B interface between MSC to VLR, C interface between HLR to GMSC, and D interface into VLR to HLR. E interface is to between the two MSCs. F interface is between MSC to EIR. EIR, yeah, I forgot to tell you about the EIR. I was discussing with you about the EIR. EIR is Equipment Identity Register. You know, whenever your handset is lost, when you go to file up an FIR against that, the police, what they ask you about the IMEI, equipment identity. I forget it. Um, International Mobile Equipment Identity, which I remember. That is IMEI. So every mobile handset has a particular IMEI. Okay, so that IMEI is tagged, or you can say is registered in EIR. If some years back, Chinese mobiles, they were coming with zero IMEI. We were getting a hell lot of complaints from TRAI that zero IMEI numbers are latching into the network. They were making like a lot of notorious things they were doing. They were quite nasty because they were some different element. So EIR, on EIR we put a trace, we put everything and found that who were those guys and what they were doing on zero IMEI and why. Because China was doing that thing. It was sending the mobiles, or it was selling the mobiles with zero IMEI. So EIR comes into picture. Then it blocks that number. And moreover, when your mobile is lost or handset is lost, so in EIR your number is your IMEI, whatever FIR you gave, the IMEI number you gave, it goes to the telecom companies and they block that IMEI from EIR. So that guy who has your number will not be able to dial, because whenever he will dial, the network will reject, because call will come here, it will reject, your call will not get matured, and it will be a waste for him. Yeah. So yeah, we are on G interface. The G interface with the two VLRs, different MSCs, and this is a MAP-G protocol. MAP-G protocol will be a very big for you. It is a mobile application part protocol. This comes into ISDN. So after that, there is H interfaces that between MSC to SMSC. So yeah, I don't know how much you are frequent in SMS also, because at our time, when WhatsApp was not there, when Telegram was not there, and other applications was not there, because these applications are on APIs. That is a separate thing. But at our time, there was SMS that was well into picture. So SMSC also there. SMSC is a short message service center. Like MSC, we have SMSC also. It's a very big box which works on the value added services. It has a stacks. Message comes, message stores for a particular time. If your number is also switch off, when you switch on the number, you'll get that. It's a FIFO method, first in, first out. It is, the stacking is done like that. So yeah. So after that, there is I interface between the MSC to ME. It's also a direct interface. I have given the interfaces here also where it is. Okay. So let's move ahead and discuss about the 3G overview and interfaces. In 3G, UE, the green ones here are databases also. UE, why it is called, why it is having database? Because your SIM has some memory. It is user equipment, UE. It has some memory, it has some database. So that's why it is kept in the database. Now it is also divided into two parts. Radio access network, you call it RAN. And core networks, you call it GSM or GPRS based. So now here, what happens? Base station, BSE gets converted to base station. Okay, this is UU interface, air interface in 2G. Now this is IUB interface between BSE to RNC. Interface changes, the bandwidth changes. You can see the thickness. The thickness can tell you that this is having good bandwidth. So IUB to RNC. RNC is radio network controller. Now it is intelligent as compared to BSE. BSE is not intelligent, but RNC is intelligent. It can it has some processors that helps it to decide which MSC, which VLR, which GMSC it has to. It has some routing details in it. So between the two RNCs, there is IUR, because I have taken a small chunk of network. I'll show you how big is the network is. Okay, it goes in MSC, it will go to IUCS. IUCS is IU interface, and CS is circuit switch. In IUPS, IU is the interface, PS is packet switching. SGSN, serving GPRS serve node. So it is the SGSN is a separate box of in a separate entity which is only responsible for sessions, like for your data sessions, for GPRS. For it's also used in 4G, but its name is changed in 4G. I'll show you how. So now BSE, BTS is replaced by BS, BS is replaced by RNC, RNC is replaced RNC, BSE is replaced by RNC, and MSC is there, but MSC is evolved. Their MSC network is now more involved, and now SGSN also comes into picture, and it goes via GN interface to GGSN, Gateway GPRS Serving Node. It is serving GPRS serving node. It is gateway GPRS serving node. It is a smaller node. It is a bigger chunk of node. It is connected to ISPs for your internet facilities, all the internet that you are using on your mobile. Okay, these both are connected to GMSC is gateway MSC. I've told you in 2G also, for other networks, to calls to other network, or calls from other network to you, like somebody having a number is having Vodafone and B number is having Airtel. So Vodafone, it will use this Vodafone network. It will come into GMSC, and then it will further interact with the GMSC of Airtel, and the reverse routing, same path, but the node will be the node's identity will be changed, but entities remain same. So it is like that. Any questions in it? Shall I move ahead? Or Surbhi, what I do, I'll reserve. I'll tell people to reserve the questions for last. I'll rush to the slides.
I'll request students to kindly ask any questions if they have at the last of the session. Kindly note them down so we can ask them at the last.
So we'll move ahead. We'll rush.
And I would say one thing,
yeah,
that students, please feel free to interact. Even if you are not saying something which is right, then also it's okay. But be interactive.
Yeah, every time
Okay,
anybody can ask, and nobody can be right every time, because I have also learned by asking questions. I've also learned. In fact, I don't know, when my mentors were there, I was asking very, very stupid questions, but they have groomed me. So I have, yeah, it's like in fact in college also I used to ask a lot of questions. If he knows that, yeah. It is now I'll discuss about the 4G networks. 4G network is a very vast network, so I'll take into the bits and chunks. This is the 4G equipment, though it is not a 4G equipment in picture, because 4G is a smart equipment. Okay, so this is like a equipment. I got this picture, that's why. So it is also the UU interface same, but now base station or BTS is replaced by E node B. These are intelligent nodes. These are intelligent. They interact on basically on IP protocols and other protocols. A lot of other protocols come into picture. It goes directly to MME. I'll discuss what is MME, what is HSS, what is PCRF. I have prepared that slide also. So it is it is replaced by EUTRAN. You can see an EPC, Evolved Packet Network. This is for data, and this is for voice. IMS is IP Multimedia System. The voice which you get here, I remember in the second slide, no, in fourth slide, I have told you about the 4G is not IMS. 4G is not about the circuit switching. The IMS will come into picture. The IP will come into picture. The IMS is IP multimedia system. So I'll discuss it later. So these are the interfaces, that S11 between MME2, S1E, GX interface, SGI interface. I know these interfaces are quite boring, so we'll cover up these interfaces quickly, and we'll go ahead. This is the IMS network. This is PGW to IMS. So you can see this is for data. This goes to IP, so it is for data, whole network. And this is for voice. You can see the complexity of 4G network in voice. That's how you get VoLTE on your handset if you are using a VoLTE numbers like Jio or Airtel. So PGW is packet gateway. From packet gateway, this whole chunk is IMS network. Here at PCCF comes proxy call session control function. CSCF, you can say, call session control functions are there. Okay. Now there was MSC, single MSC. Now it is the MSC is also responsible for your call conferencing, for your announcements. Everything was embedded in MSC, but here MSC is modular, is chunked. It is not one node. You'll get a different PCCF node, It's proxy call session control function, in interrogating call session control function, service call session control function, and this is a telecom application server. Because it is IP network, so you'll get a lot of things. This is HSS. HSS is home subscriber system. It is for like your HLR in 2G and 3G, but it is also intelligent. This is for location function, service location function. In 4G, I don't know in India we are using it or not in SLF. In Jio we were not using, I remember. And this is MRB. This is similar to this. This is MRFC and MRFP. Now MRFC is media resource function. All your conference calls, all your announcements, they are played by this separate box in data center. Earlier in 2G and 3G, they were played by MSC. It is IBCF and transition gateway. It is for other IMS network. If like Jio customer wants to talk to the Airtel customer and they both are on VoLTE, so their call will goes through this network. But if an Airtel 2G customer or 3G customer wants to talk with the Jio customer, because Jio is only the pure VoLTE operator in India, I can say that, because it is not on 2G and 3G. So they have only this network. Don't have 2G and 3G network. So whenever Airtel customer calls, so if it is a 2G, it will go through media gateway controller function. Then it is into TDM connectivity, and then it converts into IP. Then from IP it will goes to TAS, and then TAS to other nodes, which we'll discuss later. It's a complex network. And here it is BGCF, breakout gateway call session control function. Breakout gateway is also breakout control function, basically it is, and it is also a gateway for international calling, also breakout call also. Okay, so I'll move ahead. I'll show you the LTE interfaces. LTE interfaces are like a UU interface. I have mentioned UU and eNode B. There's S1 MME interface also. MME we'll discuss later. What is MME? Is UE to MME. It's also intelligent node. S1 AP, S1 UE. Why I am telling you about the interfaces? Because whenever you get a chance to work into telecom industry, in interviews also they ask about the interfaces. More also in whenever you start to troubleshoot things. So you also have to work on interfaces. So you should know about the interfaces, what are the interfaces, and how I can put a trace on interfaces. Because I remember when we launched Jio, there are a lot of issues that came to us, and we put a traces on interfaces and get to know that which interface is working, which interface is stuck, which interface is having issues, and all those things. Now, there is S5 interface also between signaling gateway to packet gateway, S6 interface between HSS to MME, S10 interface between MMEs, because all are connected to each other. Because you can imagine a telecom network. So if you use the GPS, you can see a different roads coming to a main road, GT highway. So it is like that only. All the roads are interfaces. It's a mesh kind of network. So everything that goes somewhere comes to a main streamline. Like every river, it comes to the ocean. So it is also like that. Every interface comes to a bigger interface. That is the IMS interface or EPC interface. Okay. So these are all the interfaces between PCRF, and I'll explain you what are the different nodes that are involved. So these are more interfaces of IMS. That are the interfaces of EPC and other those things. These are IMS interface between TAS, UE to TAS, and these are MG interface, MJ interface, MR, MB. There are a lot of interfaces. I have note down, but if I'll start explaining it to you, it will be bouncer for all of you. So you can just you can have a look over it. You can grab the things out of it. So it will be like that. Yeah. So next I'll move to IMS nodes and functionality. So this is interesting because PCCF, what we have I have shown you is proxy call session control function. It is the initial point of contact for the session signaling IMS enabled VoLTE user equipments, VoLTE handsets you can say. So it behaves as a SIP proxy server, forwarding the SIP messages. SIP in 2G, 3G there is ISDN, basically ISDN protocol. Here it is session initiation protocol that comes into picture. So it is a hell lot of different changes of protocol level also, because there is no circuit switching involved. There is only packet switching involved. So SIP comes into picture. There's a between UE and IMS network maintains the security associations between and this is all about the theoretical knowledge. So it is the next is how proxy call session control function knows where the customer is, where to connect the call. So it is connected via interrogating call session control function. Interrogates where is the customer, where is the other guy whom I am calling. So it goes through ICCF. It is interrogating call session control function, which interrogates to the network. Okay, and then the serving call session control function comes into picture. Okay, this thing was done earlier by MSC, but because it is not packet switching, so different nodes are involved for this. And after that, there is telecom application server, the TAS and the IMS application server, which has all the routing, which call to move at which place, which all the things are connected to all the routing tables or everything that are connected to the TAS. And there is MRF, which I have shown, media resource function. It is for all your call conferencing, everything, all your announcements. Perhaps you might have during this COVID times, you might have called to any person and you have listened that irritating sound that the government has introduced. That being introduced, the government gives them, and they have loaded in the MRF, and that's why it's a pre-call announcement. What you call, say, before commencement of the call, you hear a government announcements for safety. That is pre-call announcement, and that is loaded in MRF by the engineers over there, the MSc engineers, the core engineers, the load, and then whenever any of the customer dials, he can hear. Okay, and then we move ahead with the IBCF and transition gateway. This is like a like you can say it's a border. It's whenever you want to enter from one border to another border. You want to have a visa, you want to have valid documents. So it plays like that only. So this is IMS gateway, IMS access gateway for different IMS customers. And then there comes into MGCF also. For I have told you about MGCF for 2G and 3G calls. MGCF comes into picture for BGCF, because when Jio launched, so the main problem of Jio is that all the consumer market is 2G and 3G at that time, and there is no operator on 4G. So what they at that time, MGCF, BGCF, they are the biggest, you can say, biggest icebreakers into the industry. And they offered free calling and all those things. That's why they existed for a long time in the market, because infrastructure was also not ready, not at their end, but at consumer end. You have to buy a VoLTE phone, you have to get involved yourself by getting all those things. And in a similar fashion, by offering free services, it has lured the customers, and the customers, they enter into the market. You can say by curiosity, by anything. So it increased its base within 1 year, which other operators took like 3-4 years to develop. It developed within 1 year, I remember. Yeah, so it's there. Now I'll show you something about the LTE architecture also. LTE is basically because 2G, 3G, I don't want to explain too much, because now the future is LTE, and after evolving of LTE, there will be 5G. So 5G is right now is in testing phase. It's not launched anywhere. So yeah. So now the long-term evolution is there is supporting only packet switching that I have told you earlier. It aims to provide seamless internet between the user equipment and the packet data network without any disruption of end user. So this is like your UE. This is EU-TRAN, which I have told you, the RAN part. This is EPC, and this is IP network. The term evolution is a universal mobile telecom system radio access through the evolved EU-TRAN. The EU-TRAN is directly interacting with the user equipment like this way. It is air interface. This is the air interface. Is connected between EU-TRAN and external IP connectivity. This is from VPC servers and a lot of other things. Now, I'll talk about the LT architecture. MME and PGW, SGW, I'll explain you earlier also, because I have separate slides. You should know them in detail. So LT architecture, completely IP network is there, separate signaling path is there, and a separate user path is there. Okay, one thing on that, and there is no CS planes. One thing, I don't know, when you are on 2G, you are calling somebody, you're not able to use the data. I hope everybody faces this issue, because you're not able to browse anything when you are on 2G. But in 3G and 4G, that problem was resolved, because there is a separate signaling path and a separate user path. Signaling path for data, user path is for call. There are separate bearers, separate channel, you can say. Separate bearer channel is for data, separate bearer channel is for voice. So it is like that. At simultaneously in 4G, you can use your data and you can use your voice also while interacting, while talking with somebody. You're not disconnected from the network, you always connected. So at a high level risk, the network is comprised of EPC and access, EPC and access EUTRAN. EPC consists of PN gateway, packet data network gateway, and serving gateway. It's a network entity connected to eNode B. You can see eNode B. This is the intelligent BTS, very intelligent BTS rather, and the user equipment is connected through air interface to eNode B, and the serving gateway, packet gateway, and then IP, and then MME. Okay, I'll move ahead. This is like, you can see a small picture here, you can see big picture here, you can see the complexity. It's like that. So I try to make slides so that you can able to understand what I want to deliver. So LT architecture is the overall network architecture, including the network element and the standardized interfaces. EPC is responsible for overall control of UE and equipment, establishment of bearers and the main equipment in EPC. PDN gateway is there, SG gateway is there, MME is there. In addition to these nodes, there are some logical entities, what I have told you, HSS, PCRF, and the interface between eNode, VSGW, and yeah. Now the word PCRF is also there. So I'll explain you. It's an interesting thing to know about the PCRF also. These are the interfaces that I've told you earlier. I've shown here the interfaces also, S5, SGI, S6A. So trust me, whenever you'll get an interview, everyone will ask these interfaces. Remember. Now the main thing in 4G is user equipment also, because why user equipment market is so much grooming, flourishing in India, because India, they have the capability to buy the user equipment, lot of expensive, lot of cheaper, but the phones are all VoLTE enabled. So phones are like that, they help you to get more data, like big screens, big data, everything is going good for that as a consumer behavior. So user equipment in LT consists of UE, MT, and TE. MT is mobile terminal, TE is terminal equipment. Users services identity module domain is there. Okay, USIM. Here you usually call it SIM, but in telecom technocrats we call it USIM. So UE is communicating with eNode B, and the internal architecture I've shown you earlier, UMTS and GSM. Actually, mobile equipment is there. Mobile equipment comprised of following nodes that I have explained you. This handles all the communication function, the data streams that are in terminal equipment, and USIM is also there. USIM stores user-specific data, very similar to 3G SIM. It keeps information about the user phone, home network, identity, security keys, algorithms, random numbers, signed responses. There are a lot of protocols that come into picture. I have not mentioned that. Now the eNode B also. Here eNode B is also intelligent. Remember, I have told you that BTS is not intelligent. It takes the call, makes the call. It takes, makes, and it is like a postman. It whenever you call, yes. But in eNode B, it is intelligent. It knows where to switch. It knows how to switch. It knows how. I'll tell you eNode B also in detail. So eNode B consists of following hardware. This is RRU. Whenever you see a 4G site, you can see very simple is there, because I have seen there in Gandhinagar area. I remember there's a very simple. You can say mass site is there. It is a chonk in Gandhinagar chonk. I remember they have a site. So there is a simple site in which they have RRU, a very simple cable is going on, and this is a cable for connecting RRU to digital unit. And the antenna is there for radiating. And here I have told you MIMO technology, they use multiple input, multiple output. So they can radiate on a lot of different frequencies. Yeah. So this is the eNode B functions. Yeah, the eNode B functions have the IP header compression, because BTS never do these type of functions. Encryption of user data in air, selection of MME, which MME to go, radio resource management, because it is intelligent, so it manages a lot of resources in air, like how many customers simultaneously should connect and various other things. So it does a lot of function eNode B. And the MME is also a very important part. It does paging control and execution, UE tracking. So I don't know how much of you aware that LI is there, lawful interception happens in telecom network, because whenever some activities are there or some suspicious things going on, so LI happens, lawful and enforcement agencies, they track these things via all your mobile via MME. So your user equipment tracking happens. Your authentication interaction with HSS, whether you're authenticated to use this network or not, that also happens in MME. NAS signaling and security. There's a new security signaling. It comes into 4G, that is network access stratum. That is very, very, very complex for you. So we'll discuss when we'll interact sometime later. Then TA advanced is also there. TA advanced is like a timing advanced list management. Timing advanced is something, I don't know if you guys, perhaps some of you guys are living in the border area. In border area, we have BTSs, and the signal shoots a lot. Like you can see, like I'll tell you, when I was in South Africa, the nearest town is Mozambique over there. The nearest state was there. So they want to restrict the signals from South Africa to Mozambique. So they introduced a feature, timing advanced feature, which in air only, it you can restrict that signal to not to go to that border, or if it is the signal goes over there, you can restrict through a particular radiation power through it was earlier done by BTS, but now it is done by MME. You can restrict on the lat long basis also. So yeah, so that is a very good feature that is controlled by 4G network. Now DNN network selection gateways also happens by MME. After that, serving gateway functions are there. It routes and forwards user data, uplink and downlink, charging per user equipment, initialization of network triggered through service request, downlink packet buffering, lawful interception is also done by here. That I mentioned. If somebody, MME also helps for the lawful interception of voice calls, and serving data. No, MME also helps lawful interception of data calls. The WhatsApp call, the Telegram calls, all those calls, they can be intercepted. So it is via MME. So this is serving gateways to suppress or to do the lawful interception of that voice calls. Yeah. After that, there is a PGW network also. It helps in user packet filtering, uplink and downlink service, level charging, gating, rate enforcement, and there is mobility between 3G and non-3GPP networks. Packet screening also is done. IP address allocation, IPv6, v4, bearer management, that is done by this. Which bearer you get when you are calling. There are different set of bearers, quality indexes that are used. Policy enforcement, PCEF is also there. I'll explain you how. This is PCRF. And policy control and charging function, PCRF. I'm sure whenever you guys are using the phone of Jio, perhaps some of your friends might be using. So they offer you 1 GB of data per day. How it happens? How the system comes to know that that you have been given 2 GB, you have been given 1 GB? It decides, PCRF. how much data you have taken, and how much you have used, consumed, and how much you will how much data is remained with you. So all this is decided by PCRF node. Dominates RX GX interfaces. These are the interfaces towards IAN, prepaid interfaces. So the IAN here is now called OCS, online charging system. So that is also a very vast topic in itself. So it associates with user equipment IP CAN sessions and home PCRF and visitor PCRF. Like if you are using postpaid and you go to Delhi or some other area. But you can use if it is not prepaid. In JK, I know prepaid is bad, but in other regions, prepaid you can use anywhere in India. So how that happens, how much data you can consume over there or not, that again, because PCRF is not a single node, it is a lot of nodes that are interconnected within India with each other, and they interact, and your information passes on. So it is digital India and digital world. Your information is not hidden with anybody. Everything is going on. It is HSS, home subscriber server. Now HSS is bigger as compared to HLR and intelligent. Also, it does a lot of functions. It is connected to CSCF, GMSCs, MSCs, and SGSN, GGSN, and MME. This is evolution. You can see MSC to GMSC, 3G to CSCF to 4G. This is SGSN to GGSN to MME. So it has different functions. I'll show you the function. User identification and addressing, MZ and MSI SDN. International Mobile Equipment Identity Software version, MME address, MME capabilities, PDN address, PDN type, and access point, and subscriber QoS. QoS is quality of service, which services you will be offered. That is also decided by MME, this HSS. ID of the current serving MSC and SGSN. All the information which MSC, which SGSN you are using is secured in HSS. Now I explain you how 2G and 3G working together. This is you can see a 2G network. This you can see no E node B. Here it is node B, then RNC. You can say the BSC is connected to also SGSN. The RNC is also connected to MSC. So you can see how mesh is the network when 3G launched, because subscribers were having 2G and they can make a call to 3G. So 3G can make call to 2G. So this is how the call flows. This is how the data flows. HLR is there, SMSC is there, GGSN is there, GMSC is there. This is how a mesh network prepared. So now you can see this 2G, 3G, 4G network, how complex it is. Just a moment. Yeah, this is a GRAN network. This is UTRAN network and EUTRAN network. So you can see the evolution. CS core, ES core, evolved packet core, IMS, separate entity comes. MSC here, now you can see how big is the entity. Different entities are involved. Different interfaces are involved. You can see the complexity. So Geo is only using this thing. Only this thing. And other networks, they are using this thing along with this thing. So infrastructure of other, the OPEX cost that increase, OPEX and CAPEX, both the costs increases to this. So anything if you want to guys knows about this thing. So, or shall I move ahead? Because next, okay. So I'll move ahead only. Yeah. So difference between 3G and 4G in packet switching. In 3G, you can see a RNC to SGSN and to GGSN. But here, no RNC, no SGSN, no GGSN. Only MME, LTE and SAE. LTE is long-term evolution. SAE is system architectural evolution, because system has also evolved a lot. So from node B to E node B, from simple UE to complex UE, from SGSN, there is no RNC here, no SGSN, only MME to cloud, or you can say the telecom cloud. It is like that. So it is also the journey of 2G to 4G, the evolution. This highlights the support of each generation of mobile network, as well as the network technologies available during the standardization. You can see GMSC, GGSN. The blue lines here, they represent the plain data, the data or the traffic flows over it, and the dotted line, they are the control plane, the signaling, because each node talks to the other node through signaling. If the signaling goes down, your network will be down. Okay, so you can see this is a simple, the evolution you can see in radio part mentioned is simple. In core part, you can see how bigger the areas is becoming, and all of them interacting with each other. You can see the evolution here. Yeah. So I shall move ahead with a case study. So, Subhi, shall I move ahead with the case study, or shall I wait for some questions? You tell me.
Yeah, there are a few questions from the students, but I've asked them to ask at the last. So we
Okay,
can
now some interesting topic of big data analytics. Okay, guys, big data. This is a case study that I have. I want to share it with you. It's I think it's a smaller slide here. It's a smaller slide here. Okay, so in big data analytics is the process of examining large varied data to uncover the hidden patterns and unknown correlation market trends, which can help the operator to do a lot of things. Because of big data, they can do a descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics. Like what happened? Why did it happen? What will happen? How can we make it happen? Like I'm pretty much sure that whenever you guys browse in Amazon about your favorite watch, and then you get a pop-ups, lot of pop-ups of that particular watch, or that the items related to that watch. That helps because in back end, big data analytics scientists, they are working on it. They are working on your preferences, how what is your pattern of searching things. Like you want a watch, they will show you something else also, a Bluetooth watch also, not a normal analog watch also. So big data analytics, they are also helping the customers a lot. The telecom operators also, they are, because you're browsing on 4G, 3G, you're browsing, and each browsing you get a lot of hits and a lot of things. So that thing happens a lot in big data analytics. Now the prevailing challenges I want to share for the telcos, because I prepared this for some of my client also. So the challenges that are coming is because in big data, creating the network capacity, because in big data there are a lot of big servers are involved. The industries in general are changing at a breakneck speed, and the telecom industry is also a part of it. The service digitization and network commoditization and drive increasingly the competition and continuous disruption, and both the consumer and the business customers devour data and utilize the data services at a record speed. This the providers such as Google and Facebook are the center of this disruption, because they are offering a lot of content, because they sometimes I don't know that in India we are aware of content delivery network, but in out of India, content delivery network is a lot, because of Facebook and Google, they are content delivery network providers. They'll provide a lot of content. So content doesn't mean like anything. They can be the data, and they all work through big data. So this allows them to continuously expand their offering at a cheaper and faster rates, because all the promotions, all those things, they happen on the behavior, consumer behavior on big data analytics. So telecom improve customer service with big data. So big data analytics, what can it deliver? The ability to use more data in analytics, which is critical in gaining deeper insights. The simplified process of integrating, blending, and preparing diverse data analytics, a rapid insight discovery process that dramatically reduces analytic cycle times, correlating insights to outcome to drive downstreams business actions. There's a lot of things that you can gain out of big data analytics. So big data analytics help telecom with customer service, like improved customer retention and proactive consumer or customer care, and reduced truck rolls. Truck rolls are different terms that I will tell you what exact. Truck rolls is basically like a retention, the attrition you can maintain it. So the consistent service experience with accurate demand forecast also. So it is always good that improve customer retention. It happens like telecom and analyze consumer complaints related to the network issues. In big data, it's not also about your the browsing. It's also about like what you call in the customer care. In customer care, you mention something that I am facing the problem, and in big data, you can use the servers or the logics or the automations. You can see that whether in that area all the other customers, like you can compile that data or you can filter it out, make a logic out of it. In that area, all the customers are facing an issue, and you can go ahead with the customer satisfaction. That will increase proactive customer care and reduce truck rolls. Companies can use the data they already have to accurately predict what customer issues result in unnecessary and develop a system for them to allocate resources accordingly. Yeah, consistent service experiences with accurate demand forecast. So like you can see in a particular area, there's a, like here in like COVID times, you can see a drastic change on Amazon and Flipkart and all those sites. You can see now they are selling masks. How they come to know, how they got to know because of this. We know that the situation is like that, but the consumer, they are searching for it. They're searching for the mask, they're searching for sanitizers, they're searching for everything. So they read the consumer behavior. So it is all about that. Now the infrastructure challenges that requirement for the big data initiative. Firstly is the storage. Often organizations already process enough storage in house to big data initiative. However, agencies may decide. Organizations have big data, but Google and Facebook utilize hyperscale computing environment, which can make the commodity servers with a direct attached storage. Cloud storage is there. Now the cloud storage also a different type: hybrid, private, public. So it depends, because cloud itself is a very, very big topic in cloud computing. And there are different two kinds of storages: asynchronous and synchronous. Asynchronous is data is analyzed in real time, and the storage should be optimized at low latency, because whenever like you have a content provider who takes up the data, and what I can say, yeah, like whenever you open the Facebook, you get the pop-ups of that watch which you have seen in Amazon. So how it happens? Because the real time they have shared your choices, that so it all about the big data analytics. The type of, I have mentioned here the planning storage methodology which the operators can follow, like type of data. These are the conditions like format of data: structured, semi-structured, unstructured, and compression requirements, how to map reduce the files, quality, query pattern of on the data, frequency of incoming data, consumers of the data, which are the consumers that are utilizing or using those things. So there are a lot of thing that comes into picture. Now after that, there is processing also. First is storage, then is processing. Servers for big data analytics must have enough processing power to support this application. First of all, batch processing is there, real-time processing is there, and hybrid processing is there. You can use both processing. Now there are analytical softwares also for the big data analytics that the market is working a lot into that. There is a networking that is the key requirement, or you can say the prerequisite of this. Your network should be solid, because I remember when I am working for Telefonica Germany, a small project is there for Daimler. The Daimler is a Mercedes-Benz project in which they are launching their driverless cars. So driverless cars, how the car will get to know that it has to stop at this location when the red light comes. It's all about the big data in it, and that triggers the algorithms to the car that you have to follow the right lane, you have to follow the left lane. So this project right now it is under testing, but that network should be robust, should be so strong. There should be no outage. Not for a single millisecond the signal should get off from that car. Otherwise, it will be a huge blunder or accident. So networking means the telecom operator optimization on network time availability. Network availability should be 100%, not 99 or not anything else. So it is like very important. So after that, networking I have explained. Yeah. Now this is the data transfer comparison. The before data transfer comparison, as is like I prepared that for the client only before how it happened. So before, the customer was using FTP files to transfer. Okay, there was FTP files, that big files like BTS is there, like your CDRs. How operator charges you for the prepaid or postpaid numbers. Your CDR is collected into aggregator. This is aggregator. It goes from FTP, real-time FTP, to the regional data centers. And the regional data centers, you can see a lot of regional data centers, and the latency also happens to central data center. And then dashboards are released. Dashboards for consumer behavior, your CDR behavior, and in earlier times also, if you remember, that they offer, the guys offer, these operators offer your free services, or you can say the full talk time. How they offer, they read the consumer behavior through these things. And now there will be like regional data centers are there. The map reduce and the topics at the regional data center are replicated into many to one configuration to headquarters the central data, and making events available in real time to headquarter dashboard. This means that they can monitor global performance and react enough to improve consumer behavior. Being able to process high throughput geo distributed events in real time also enables understanding how and where service issue are trending. Crowd-based antenna optimization is there, like this, you can see. And optimizing services with the equipment monitoring, capacity planning, preventive maintenance, and a lot of things. You can see now things have changed. These are combined, and now they are map reduced while they are available on real time basis. There are a lot of applications are also there. There are other things also. So it has also evolved from high latency network to low latency network. So now I'll share how the big data analytics can drive profitability in telecom operators. So big data analytics can provide enhanced customer insights. Components that were involved will be customer information database, device data, user data, location data. So on this information data, what the customer is browsing, or what customer demands, and the device data, from which device they are using, usage data, how much usage is there, and from which location it is there. So this will allow the telecom operator to identify loyal customers of their high value customers, potential customers, and they can offer a tailored products to them. Tailored product, like they can offer an optimized product, or the products which they are demanding. So in consumer information data, customer information data, there will be customer ID, MSISD, and demographic services used, spending pattern, and usage plan. Like you can spend a lot, they can see that your credit card bills are like this. They can offer you things that are like somebody is selling, buying a lot, somebody is buying less. So they offer you like that only. They analyze your behavior. So there is device data, that is that is brand, model, series, which brand you are using, which technology you are using. Are you using 2G, 3G, 4G? They can analyze you on that. They analyze on user data also, the CDR revenue you have generated, the value added services that you are using. You're using LBS like location based services, or you want different VAS services, mobile internet usage also. So they all track and they all analyze. location data also, like if you are a frequent traveler, they'll pop up you with the make my trip or other pop-ups you'll get to book, or if you get a chance to go with a trip or with friends or something like that, they'll pop up with you, they'll load pop-ups on your screen also. This will allow the telecom operator to personalize their approach to meet every consumer group needs, to determine how most valuable customer, very critical components in order to make strategical decisions by this thing. They can identify loyal customers, high value customers that I have explained. Now the leverage customer experience also by predictive analysis. The telecom operator can accurately predict when customer might be moving towards the or facing a bad experience. Because if you can see, my earlier usage was like this, now it has been reduced to this, and I'm using some other thing. So it is like they can analyze your behavior and identify the scenarios that lead to the customer to experience issues with services and other things. So they will help. Before it is a proactive approach. Before the customer approaches to the customer care, you can immediately, or the telecom operator can immediately analyze that behavior and approaches to the customer. So it will help the customer, it will make him happy that the operator that I have having the SIM, it is having a proactive approach towards me, they are taking care of me. That is how this big data analytics can help in them, because it gives a real time analysis of the behavior, and it helps in increased revenue also. New business area is there. Telecom operators can sell their customer insights on crowd movement. Like what is the crowd movement means, where the consumer behavior has shifted. Like it is a very good example right nowadays. COVID-19 is there, so everybody is shifted toward masks, sanitizers, and all those things. So it's a crowd movement where it is going, behavior and interest. So there is business optimization also. A lot of things on business optimization can help, which can help them in revenue for more targeted marketing activities, and reduce cost by identifying the expense and revenue leakage cases is also, because there are a lot of revenue leakage also that can be controlled, because when you get the data you can analyze that, and you analyze that, you get to know about the things. And the conclusion about this is, powerful big data analytics solutions are fundamentally changing the world that telecom operators manage their daily operation. The advantages gained from big data and analytics are substantial as mentioned above, and will be increasing over time. Therefore, operators, they are aggressively pursuing big data analytics and information strategies will be definitely differentiating them from the competition. So if any operator, they want to do better from the competition, they should adopt this. So this is all from my side. I think I have stretched a lot. I'm really sorry for that. Thank you for listening me also. I hope it is useful. Surabhi, am I there?